Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming into another video. All right, so I feel like talking basketball, whatever comes out of my mouth, so be it. I didn't check anything before turning this on, so who knows how accurate what I'm going to say is going to be. But last night, man, as I was talking about in my Laker chat video, watching the Minnesota Timberwolves really had me thinking about just what I expected them. Just like a lot of people who were talking heads today, we're really thinking about Minnesota as a legitimate title contender. And probably late on board saying that. But the way they played defense last night, if they can keep that up, they are the title favorites, man. Some of the best defense I've seen in a very long time. I know I'm not alone when I say that, but Minnesota looked fantastic last night. You got to give credit to guys like Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Naz Reid played exceptional defense. He's not even known for being a very good defender, but I thought he did a fantastic job on Jokic in the pockets of the time that I saw him on him. Without Rudy Gobert, their defensive anchor, they just played some of the best defense we had ever seen. It was almost like they were even better defensively than without him, which is crazy enough. You're talking about, McDaniels. I think his name is McDaniels. Whatever the case may be, dude was balling. It's just a really good defense, man. You're talking about Anthony Edwards and how much he reminds everybody of Michael, and the way that he can put his back to the basket and turn around and fade away and use footwork to kind of break down opponents with a one-on-one game. That is fantastic. His confidence. And then on the defensive side, he uses his athleticism and his strength to put people on their back. It was one of those situations where I saw they tried to put the Denver Nuggets put Justin Holiday on him, single coverage, and I laughed at that. It's just, he's too small, man. He may be tall enough or long enough, but I mean, Ant-Man probably has him with like 40 pounds of muscle on the guy. So he was backing him down, just pushing his little body out the way, shooting over him. Denver Nuggets better figure something out. And this is what I said about them losing Bruce Brown. This is when you need Bruce Brown. Because Bruce Brown is big enough to at least put a legitimate body on Ant-Man. When you replace him with Justin Holiday is tiny, man. He's a skinny dude. He don't have nothing in his back pocket. So he's getting pushed around. And nobody else on that Denver Nuggets team can really do anything about him. So, as I said, this is going to be a big Ant-Man series. I did pick the Denver Nuggets in 6, but I don't see the Denver Nuggets winning 4 out of the next 6 games. I don't see that. So, and it's one of those situations where Denver looks like the Lakers against Denver. That's how they look against Minnesota right now. Like a team that's defeated, frustrated, don't know what to do, imploding. You saw Jamal Murray throw a heat pack on the basketball court after a no call that he didn't agree with. They're imploding. And it just goes to show you, this is the same trait I saw in the Lakers. When they have the mental edge on the team, oh yeah, they can really flex. But when another team has a mental edge on them, suddenly they collapse. And it's like Denver has that same trait. They just so happen to have the upper hand against the Lakers. It's the same thing I said the Lakers had on the Pelicans. Had the upper hand on them, the mental edge. It's the same thing I said about Sacramento going up against the Pelicans. You see how this is layered? These teams can play against one another as it pertains to whoever has the mental edge on them. But once they find a team, or rather vice versa, they have the mental edge on that team. But once they find a team that has the mental edge on them, suddenly it's like, oh my God, what can we do? Can we focus? It's very difficult to do so. And so that's what I'm seeing here. Is just layers of teams who don't have the mental edge collapsing against those teams, whether those teams are playing well or not. And in Minnesota's case, you happen to see that team playing well against Denver, and Denver didn't know what to do with him. They just don't know what to do with him. As I said in the last series, the Denver Nuggets are going to have to play better against the Minnesota Timberwolves than they did against the Lakers, because that mental edge won't be there. And because that mental edge is not there, now you're seeing what I was talking about. You have to match the energy of Minnesota, or you're going to end up getting pushed off the floor. Ant-Man is not going to waver in confidence against anybody. So you can clearly see the Denver Nuggets this year have that same trait that the Lakers had, that same trait that the Pelicans have, where if they have that mental edge, they can flex. If they don't have that mental edge, they collapse. And that's what I'm seeing there. And so for all of us who are waiting for Denver to come back in this series, unless Minnesota gives it back to them, I don't think they're going to win a game in this series. And they couldn't win a game at home against these boys with altitude. How the hell are they going to win in Minnesota? Minnesota's going to have to take their foot off the gas in order for Denver Nuggets to win in this series. And the fact of the matter is that you got to add injury issues to the situation. Because now, as we knew already, Reggie Jackson's playing through injury because he hurt himself in our Lakers series. Then played through it, looked great against them, couldn't keep it together against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now he hobbled off the floor, couldn't even put any pressure on his leg. And then you got Jamal Murray, who's also dealing with the hammy. He's fighting through it, he's bullying through it, but it ain't happening. And then the thing that frustrates me as a Laker fan, I'm sure most Laker fans feel the same way, is a lot of them little trick shots that Denver gets against us, couldn't hit none of them shots over Minnesota. Same look, same rhythm, not overly contested, but they just don't have the confidence against Minnesota. Because Minnesota has that mental edge. And so that's what it is. It's like all of these different teams that I mentioned to you that need the mental edge in order to compete properly, none of them are championship worthy at this point. None of them. You can't have that trait if you're going to beat the field. Because they're going to be teams that are going to not be afraid of you. They're going to be teams that are not going to cower in your presence. And for my team, the Lakers, we seem like we can only beat teams that cowered in our presence. And so that's my frustration with the Lakers. I just want them to get rid of that trait, as I was mentioning in my Laker video. I encourage everybody to check out. And now I'm losing faith in the Denver Nuggets because I see they don't have that respect themselves in regards to whoever we face. We're going to play the same way, we're going to play great, and we're going to beat them all because we're the champs. That's not there. It's not. And another thing that I want people to understand is, granted, the Minnesota Timberwolves defense is the best in basketball. So a lot of that has to do with the score. But what did I tell y'all about the Denver Nuggets not being that great of a scoring basketball team overall? They're a great offensive team. And with them playing great defense, usually they're able to win more games than not because of the fact that they are potent offensively as it pertains to being efficient, but not as it pertains to providing volume. You can hit 30 out of 30 shots, but if you go up against a team that is going to attempt 70 shots and you can't put up no more than 30, you can hit all of them damn 30 shots. They can hit 32 in their 70 attempts and run you out the gym, and you lose. And that's the problem. The Denver Nuggets do not attempt enough offense. They don't play at a high enough pace to keep up with a team that can get stops against them. They need to score more. And I said this, I said it, that there were pockets at a time throughout the course of the season where the Denver Nuggets showed me that is their weakness. If they had any weakness at all that showed up in them scorecards, it's the end of the game scores for a lot of these games. They shoot 50%, but they only walk away with like 109 points. So if you run up against a potent offense or a team that can keep you under 109 points because of their fantastic defense, then how are you going to beat those teams? That's why I think the Denver Nuggets would have trouble with some of these other teams. I think they would have trouble with the Indiana Pacers team because Indy's going to score a lot. Even though Indy ain't going to play no defense, they're going to run the score up. And if Denver can't match that every single night, then they're going to lose more games than they win in the series. And some may think I'm absolutely crazy, and I don't think we're going to see that matchup. But I have a theory that the Indiana Pacers is just a bad matchup for the Denver Nuggets for that reason. And anybody else that can score a lot of points on a regular basis and have such potent offenses that overcome their solid to very good defense. I think they're a very good defensive team. They've shown that this year, but not nearly as good as Minnesota. And so they're going to have to improve defensively in this series. And most importantly, they're going to have to find an answer for Ant-Man, which I don't see one. I don't see one on that roster, you guys. KCP, I told y'all, KCP has the advantage on a lot of people because he's athletic and he has good balance and he can shoot the ball, make them work on the defensive end as well. But when it comes down to it, when you're going up against a superstar with that much mass and Anthony Edwards, KCP ain't going to cut it. You need like 2 KCPs down there on him. And so that's where they've been able to advance against a lot of our guys like Austin Reeves and D'Lo Russell. They can, those dudes ain't very athletic. You're going up against Ant-Man, fam. You know what type of power that man has in his legs alone? He shoot off the ground, it's like he shot out of a cannon. So when he backs you down or he pushes forward, you're not going to stop him with no KCP. That ain't gonna work. And so that's the problem. I really think the Denver Nuggets need to go back and get Bruce Brown. Get him back, pay him whatever he wants. Get him back on the damn team, man. And also, you got to put Christian Brown on Ant-Man a little more. That's who you want on Ant-Man. Because Christian Brown has at least the closest thing to being that strong that you have at that position. He's the closest thing to being that strong. The problem is you can't trust Christian to space the floor properly because his three ball doesn't fall. So now you got spacing issues on the offensive end, which Denver probably can withstand with the type of shooting that they have, but it's not something they prefer given the fact that they benefit so much from guys like Justin Holiday and KCP being able to stretch the floor for them at those positions. But they're going to have to get that up. They got to get that up and give Christian Brown more minutes, because I've seen what Christian Brown does against LeBron defensively. He's big enough, he's strong enough, and he's powerful enough and quick enough to keep up with him. So you got to try him on Ant-Man. You have to. That's where the answer is if they have one at all. And they just got to live with whatever Christian can't do on the offensive end. Be okay with the fact he can't do it. He ain't going to be able to hit the three. You know what I mean? But he is strong enough to keep up with guys that KCP and Justin Holiday will never be able to keep up with, in my opinion. With that type of leg strength and power. So that's the answer there for the Denver Nuggets. I look for them to make an adjustment like that. But they're in some trouble, man. Their point guard position is hurting, and they also need to address that. If anything's going to keep them from winning the championship is the fact that they don't have a point guard behind Reggie Jackson. After Reggie Jackson and Jamal Murray, now you're asking other people to play the point guard position that are not point guards. You want to go to Justin Holiday? That's not a point guard. You know what I mean? Now you go to dig in there. Maybe they got a rookie back there that I don't know about. Like, they don't have a reliable third string point guard at all. So that's a roster flaw. People talk about the Lakers roster flaws and certain teams' roster flaws. The Denver Nuggets have some roster flaws, and they didn't address them because they won the championship in such an easy fashion, but they overestimated the strength of their path. When they look back on that path, you ran into a depleted Minnesota team, a Laker team that had foot problems up and down their starting lineup, a Miami Heat team that was just flat out trash in the finals, a Phoenix Suns team that did take you to 6 games but ultimately was not very good themselves. They had a very easy path last year. So when you talk about what you need to do to repeat as champions, they didn't feel like they needed to do a whole lot. They could lose a key piece like Bruce Brown, and now look at them. Down 0-2 to the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Timberwolves team that they beat last year, who didn't have Nas Reed, didn't have McDaniels. I mean, I don't know what to tell them. That's the problem right there. And Ant-Man got significantly better. So it's like, I don't know what to tell them. I think Minnesota's in a world of trouble. A whole world of trouble. When you lose the first 2 games at home, and that team Minnesota just showed us that they're not affected by altitude, oh no, you in some trouble. They gotta be affected by altitude. Otherwise, where are you gonna find your advantage? If they ain't getting tired, but you are on your home court, oh no, that's bad. That's real bad. And so that's what I'm seeing right there with the Denver Nuggets. They look like they're in a world of trouble. I picked them to win that series in 6, but I don't see how they're going to be able to get 4 games out of this Minnesota team right now, man. I don't see it. I don't see it, and I think most pundits don't see it at this point, too. And I did think Minnesota had a chance to be competitive against them. I think I picked Denver, Denver in 6. So I figured Minnesota would win 2 games, but not the first 2 games. Not in Denver. No way. No part of me thought that was possible at this point. And so, yeah, man, I just wanted to update my thought. I'm not going to change my pick. Things can happen. Injuries can change things. I've seen too much playoff basketball to just quit on the NBA champions just because it looks bad. I've seen teams lose the first 2, come back and win 4 straight. So that's not going to be something I hadn't seen if that happens this time. But I don't see it coming. Put it like that. The way the Ant-Man's playing right now and their inability to defend him, the way Jamal Murray's hurting and that hobbled point guard position as a whole, I don't know where they're going to get it from. And I think that, I don't remember who I was listening to, but they made a great point. They were saying that Jokic doesn't jump very high at all. But usually he's able to since he's so tall and big, he's able to shoot over most guys. Problem is, when you got guys that are taller and longer than him, that lack of athleticism and lack of lift can really be a hindrance to him scoring. So now you're seeing situations where Karl Towns, Rudy Gobert, Naz Reid, those are three very tall and long dudes that are being on him that he's going to need lift in order to shoot over. That lift isn't coming. So I don't think Jokic, unless he figures something out, he may not be as effective in this series as he normally is scoring the ball. And if they turn him into a scorer and then put those defenders on him, like I've suggested the Lakers do, turn him into a scorer, now you're asking him to try to overcome that. And so it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare matchup for the Denver Nuggets. And you can tell they're having a hard time dealing with all that's coming at them. So, as a Laker fan, I love to see it. Quite honestly, I'm thrilled by it. It's been a joy for us to watch. Our team is knocked out by this team. They bullied the hell out of us. And I'll tell you something else. Another thing that made me pick the Denver Nuggets, and I have to be honest with myself about this, is just overestimating how much of a feat it was to defeat my team. Well, of course, they're going to beat the Minnesota Timberwolves because the Denver Nuggets beat the Lakers. It's like, nah, that wasn't a feat, man. Our team was trash. I got to be honest about that. In comparison, that team was trash. Not only were we trash, but they had the mental edge, severe mental edge. So now when I look back on it, it's like, I probably should have known better. I should have picked the guys with the Twin Tower centers and the superhuman shooting guard and the great perimeter defensive players. Because on paper, that looked better than the Denver Nuggets, who all I had to do was look at how poorly they played against the Lakers in all of the games they played against us. And they were able to somehow win basketball games despite only being up for 50 minutes of the whole entire series. That right there should have been enough for me to realize that they, as I said, needed to play better in order to play against the Minnesota Timberwolves and win. So I ignored data because I was bigging up my team in my head a little too much. Well, they beat us. Of course, they wore us out, so they're going to beat Minnesota. No. Hell no. If I could go back and tell myself anything, I would have just said all of that to me. Like, no, don't pick them. Don't pick Denver, because at the end of the day, beating your team ain't nothing special. Your team rolled over against Sacramento. Your team rolled over. And I mean, beating my team ain't that special. So that's what I think was also ultimately what put me in a position to choose the Denver Nuggets to beat the Minnesota Timberwolves. When on paper, and based on what I had seen for 5 games, they're not playing better than Minnesota. They were barely playing better than the Lakers. They just knew how to close the Lakers out, and the Lakers had the mental disadvantage to such a degree that even when they weren't playing well, they still were able to dominate us. Even when they had big leads, they still were able to come back and win. That was mental. That had nothing to do with matchups. Or very little to do with matchups. So yeah, man, I wanted to say that. I was thinking about that earlier today. Just giving my team too much damn credit. They deserve all that. But anyway, that's pretty much what I got to say, man. Hopefully Minnesota takes it all the way, man. I have no problem seeing Minnesota win the championship this year, even though it would make me very wrong in regards to the Rudy Gobert trade. I'm fine with that. You know what I mean? If they went all in on Minnesota in regards to getting Rudy Gobert, I think they deserve an opportunity to win a championship based on that. Probably wasn't the greatest trade in the world, but if they get that ring, I think they'll be very pleased that they did that, ultimately. So, you know, Ant-Man is that great, y'all. That's what it really comes down to. He's that great of a basketball player. If he gets his first championship at 22, I don't think too many people will be surprised to see that after watching him last night. First 2 games against this Denver Nuggets team, he's looked as good as anybody. And as I told you guys, this is one of the most confident players to ever play the game. I see that already. First 4 years of basketball, one of the most confident players ever played. So if he doesn't get robbed by injuries and he goes on to have a Hall of Fame career or is one of them great players, I don't think anybody should be surprised by that. And mind you this, if he does get his first ring, that's exactly how we're going to be looking at him, as somebody that we judge by rings. So he's going to have to continue to win. So that's really what it is. The pressure's on for him. If you get this first one, all that does is raise the pressure up higher. Now people are going to be like, okay, you like Kobe, you like Dwayne Wade, you like Michael Jordan. You better go get some more. So that's really what it is, man. I kind of hope he does win it, to be honest with you. But there's one thing I want to say. While everybody's bigging up Minnesota and we are seeing great ball out of them, there is a team out there that has had also one of the best records in the Western Conference all year long, and they haven't lost a game in these playoffs, and that's the OKC Thunder. I want to see what they look like against Dallas. As for all I know, they sweep Dallas, and then we're saying they're the team to win the championship. So that's just what it is. It's a changing of the guard. And even though I don't think they match up as well with Dallas as Minnesota matches up with Denver, we still have to see what OKC is going to look like from here on out. Because they're also a team that's been playing phenomenal basketball, and a lot of people haven't been watching them because they're not on national TV very much. So that's what it is. Them teams been at the top of the West the whole time. So looking forward to seeing OKC, see how they do against Dallas. I did pick Dallas to win in 6, but I've been wrong a lot. So what do I know, right? But that's really what it is, man. I'll leave it at that. I hope everybody's enjoying content from BDL44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.